I know it's exactly what you're thinking. Scram Kitty and his buddy on rails? It is certainly one of the strangest titles that I've come across in a video game, but fortunately for our little feline friend, Scram Kitty and his buddy on rails, from here on out known as Scram Kitty, is a pleasant addition to the growing number of titles on the Wii U eShop. Developed by Dako, Scram Kitty is an interesting mix of genres. On one hand, there's some puzzle elements, but on the other hand, it's basically a shoot 'em up. It certainly is an interesting concept, and the fact that you're supposed to be rescuing cats from super intelligent mice only adds to the quirky nature of the title. After being away from your cat for a few months, you come back to discover your pet is missing, as well as every other cat on the planet. It seems that some scientists on the space station have created super intelligent rodents, and it also just so happens that once they become sentient, they kidnapped all the house cats on Earth. Hopping into your spacesuit, you take it upon yourself to rescue the cats being held hostage by rats, of all things. How ironic. It's kind of strange to explain the mechanics at first, but similar to Dako's previous title, the 2D Adventures of Rotating Octopus character, they really do come up with the best names. The spacesuit you have on will attach itself to any platform, making the experience literally an on-rail shooter. When you jump, you'll be affected by gravity in a direction against your jump, meaning it is possible to time your jumps and movements to reach tricky platforms. Each level has 4 cats that you'll be able to rescue, but each of them has a different requirement. For example, the lazy cat will just wait at the end of the level, while the lucky cat will require 100 gold coins to lure it out of hiding. As you cruise through the levels, ideally you'll become adept at flying throughout the air and collecting your feline friends. I say ideally because at its heart, Scram Kitty is one of the most difficult games I've played this year. There are plenty of pixel-perfect jumps here and swarms of enemies to claw through. Although you'll have an option to replay levels to collect all the cats, it can be extremely frustrating to collect them all and then die just before you reach the finish line. However, I can't knock a game for being legitimately challenging when there is no artificial difficulty. Every death is the fault of the player, it requires patience, dexterity, and a bit of luck to reach the end. One of the coolest things about Scram Kitty is the fact that the levels are so huge and they're presented in a way that allows the player the freedom to collect whatever the cat they want in any order. If you're having trouble with a particular cat, then you can skip it and come back later. My most memorable level including some neat jumping mechanics involving huge rotating platforms, missiles, and hordes of rats. In my opinion, it showcased some of the more interesting concepts presented in Scram Kitty. Visually, Scram Kitty doesn't exactly impress. It uses some detailed sprites, but there's simply not that many enemies, making them seem drab and repetitive by the end of the game. Environments really get the short end of the stick here. The background looks like it was simply recolored. While Scram Kitty doesn't require nice visuals to be enjoyable, it would be nice to have more variety rather than a handful of enemies and a few recolored backgrounds. As of right now, I played Scram Kitty for about 6 or 7 hours, and I've seen most of what it has to offer. Of course, I haven't finished every level because I'm simply not the best player, but I have seen the credits roll and I've made an effort to complete every level at least several times. The game is split into almost 30 levels, but each one can take anywhere from 2 minutes to 20 minutes to complete, depending on if you count the dozens of deaths you'll inevitably encounter. In that aspect, it's relatively short on content, but it is still satisfying to see your skills improve as you progress through the game. There is a challenge mode to go along with the campaign, but it's underdeveloped. It consists of collecting coins and rats, as you'd expect, on a timer. There's no online leaderboards, and I didn't experience any incentive to actually give it more than a few trial runs. Where's the gamepad in all this? Scram Kitty uses the Wii U gamepad as its main screen by default, and the TV will show various hints and comments based on the level. Sometimes it might zoom out to show enemies just slightly out of view on the gamepad, and other times it might show you where the remaining coins are to lure out Lucky Cat. Its true purpose isn't for the player, but rather for the people watching the player. Scram Kitty is too fast-paced to have the player look up at the TV, but it's perfect for having others watch the gameplay from a different perspective and offer hints. At its best, Scram Kitty and his buddy on rails is a challenging skill-based shoot-'em-up with creative level design. At its worst, Scram Kitty is frustratingly difficult, short, and doesn't have a very impressive presentation. I can't say if everyone will enjoy it simply because it's an odd game, but if you're a fan of difficult games or shoot-'em-ups, I would suggest you give Scram Kitty a try.